I don't really think anybody should buy it unless you have a 4-year time frame, and I'm hoping that you want to own it forever. I think that Bitcoin is one of those forever assets, like the family farm, or like a trophy. You know, if you bought like the New England Patriots or a soccer team, you know, you want to give it to your heirs. So I have a lot of opinions about the long term, 4 years to 10 years out. I don't have any particular useful advice over the next 4 weeks, you know, and I'm not a technical person. So, and I hear all sorts of things, so we can talk about it, but that's just what I hear in the market. I'll have a lot more to say on Bitcoin in a moment, but I'm going to leave it at that. With regard to the macro economy, I think that the economy of the world, like I would say Western civilization, but maybe I actually think the entire global economy peaked in January of 2020. I think if I think about January 1st, like New Year's of 2020, just before, you know, we got hit with COVID, and I think about how the world worked, you know, the concert business was raging and travel was raging and the airlines were, you know, were working smoothly and the hotels were on fire and small businesses were on fire and there was entrepreneurialism everywhere and an explosion of yoga studios and specialty everything. I think we kind of hit the peak of this entire business cycle then. Everybody was able to go about their business unfettered. We had a little bit of monetary inflation in the system, and so it wasn't like things were perfect. They weren't perfect, but you know, compared to what came in the next 2 years, you know, which is just unprecedented government intervention in every aspect of our lives, telling you who could come to dinner, how far away you had to stand from your kids, how many masks you need to wear, how many vaccines you need, whether or not you can go to the gym, whether you could go to the office. So many things happened that intervened with the free market. And they were all restraints of trade, creating massive inefficiency and all this, I think, policy intervention unprecedented across every dimension of life. You got a war on carbon, a war on corporations, a war on foreigners, a war on trade, you know, a war on COVID. I could go on and on and on, but wars are unprecedented policy interventions by governments in our lives. So if I go back to January, and I just picked like January 1st, 2020, while we were still innocent and before COVID hit and then the war on currency hit, etc. And then you go forward to today, and I look at what happened. Well, the money supply, the M2 money supply of the US dollar expanded, by my chart, 41%. We expanded the money supply about 41%. Now, how did all the assets behave? Well, gold is up 20% since that day. So gold captured half the money supply expansion. It didn't track the money supply. What did track the money supply? Single family homes up 46%. You know, we all know the story of home prices exploding. So single family homes slightly outpaced that money supply. And of course, granted, the money supply is like an imperfect government metric. You know, they give you their best estimate with a 1 or 2 month delay. So, I mean, it might be the single family homes are about at the money supply. NASDAQ, the index, 19% from that date. Up 20%, but the money supply is up 40%. The S&P index up 13% from that date. Bitcoin up 185% from that date. So you would have beat the money supply slightly with desirable real estate. You would have beat it with commodities. You beat it with Bitcoin, which is like a basically synthetic digital commodity, but it's scarcity. You wouldn't beat it with gold. You wouldn't beat it with NASDAQ stocks. You wouldn't beat it with the S&P index. And so, you know, you could roll the clock forward. You can roll it to August 10th, 2020. That's the date that my company bought $250 million worth of Bitcoin. And so people knew who I was on that date, and we made a macroeconomic commitment. Now, we've been studying it for 90 days previous, and so we made a commitment based upon the circumstances in the second quarter. But if you look at the macro numbers from August 10th, if we had bet 250 million on Bitcoin, 250 million on gold, it would have been down 10%. Gold is down 10% since August 10th, 2010. So gold got a boost in the first part of the crisis, but then it kind of flagged. NASDAQ is like flat, minus 1%, 0%, went nowhere for the entire 18 months. The S&P slightly up 11%. Single family homes up 26%. The money supply up about 20%, maybe 25%, depending on how you count it. So again, single family homes tracking the money supply. Bitcoin, even as it's been thrashed right and left, up 86%. So if you're an investor, you kind of got to have a 4-year time horizon or longer. And if you're a saver, you're a 10-year time horizon or longer.